So I think if you put a rock in my mouth right now,
Yeah, would that be
it would
not
melt
as
it.
hot as some of these hot spices? You're listening to The Cosmic Cast.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the final episode in the first season of the Cosmic Cast. You're here with me, the King of the Carolina Reaper, Rick Bibber here. To my right, we have the Jack of Jalapeno, Tom Harvey.
How's it going?
And finally, we have the sixth Spice Girl, Dr. John Pernet-fisher.
Hello.
As you can tell, things are a little bit different today. We're doing a Q&A session, and thank you for everyone who sent them in. But there's a little bit of a twist.
So basically, we're going to answer your questions, and for every single one of them, we're going to eat one of our increasingly spicy range of hot sauces, and hopefully by the end of it, we'll be just dying to get to the end of answering your questions.
And we're already sweating quite profusely. It's in the middle of a heat wave at the moment. It's 35 degrees in this room. So it's going to be fun.
So please forgive us if we are sweating profusely at the end.
Yeah.
To the first one.
Up first, we have a standard sriracha sauce.
And the first question comes from Sol, asking, how many planets are there? So let's do this and then...
Okay. Quite tasty.
Not too bad. Sweet. Slightly spicy, but nothing.
I feel no pain. This is good.
Yeah,
I've been training myself eating a lot of sriracha the past few weeks. So this
absolutely
is fine.
delicious. Yeah. So, there are officially 8 planets in the solar system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do like how I had to confirm with you guys.
There are 8. Yeah.
But we also, in the planetary community, we refer to things as planetary bodies as well. So when we talk about that, we're upping the numbers a lot there because things such as the moon would be counted as a planetary body.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so obviously, famously, Pluto was downgraded to a dwarf planet a few years ago now, and I guess really, you know, there's a sort of a gradation going from what you call a planet to these dwarf planets. I mean, there are all sorts of weird bodies out in the edges of the solar system, in the Oort cloud and the Kuiper belt that I guess we don't really understand. But there's been a lot of stuff, hasn't there, about a potential Planet 9 at the outer fringes of the solar system. So I think it's...
On some strange elliptical orbit. Yeah.
Is that based on gravity? Is it based to do with the way other planets are seeming to orbit differently or things like that?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not really sure what the evidence is. These are just headlines that I read from the newspapers.
Yeah,
but,
well, you need to stop reading The Sun. Right, well, thank you very much, Sol. I hope that answers your question.
Good question.
Right, so up next we have some Red's 666 hot sauce with habanero chili.
Pretty good stuff. I do enjoy that myself.
Can I just say, I know we've only had one so far, but the upper lip is already quivering.
Yeah, my tongue is tingling.
Yeah,
I'm not confident. No.
Yeah.
Nah,
We'll see. Let's go.
So we'll eat, and I'll read out the question.
Yeah, go for it.
This is good sauce.
Yeah, it's just nice.
And the next question comes from Coco, and they ask, have girls or women gone to the moon? They should, if not, #girls in space. Very good question.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And yes, we agree they should go to space.
Yes. I assume there have been women in space
Yes, in
before,
space,
but not
yes.
to the moon.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. So
I guess this forms part of the big drive that America have proposed in their Artemis program.
Yeah.
2024 is they want to put the first woman on the moon.
By 2024.
By 2024, or
yeah.
thereabouts, whenever it ends up getting launching. But yeah, that'd be very exciting.
But unfortunately, no. At the moment, no ladies have been in space, but
No,
in the
to the
near
moon.
future.
To the moon.
Sorry, yeah, to the moon. But in the near future, they will be.
There will be, absolutely. And
As
my
it should.
tongue is already on fire.
Yes.
I put a little, in between shots there, I put a little bit extra on my wing. And I think with hindsight, I was getting a bit ahead of myself.
Right.
Next up, we have Tropical Sun Caribbean Hot Pepper Sauce.
Very good. Cost 69p.
Yes.
And our next question comes from Anne, which is, what was the most significant discovery about the Moon's geology which helped understand the geology of the Earth? Which is a great question.
It's a great question.
So let's get into this.
Okay, chin chin. That's not bad.
Not too bad.
For 69p, that's all right.
Tasty.
Yes. None of these are a sponsor, by the way.
No. Hashtag not sponsored.
Yeah, so there's so many important discoveries that were made by the Apollo missions alone. So on a minor note, the Apollo missions helped us age the surface of the moon. So they took samples of obviously superficial rock, and using them we came up with a thing called crater counting. So we can estimate what the age of certain craters on the moon are, and then working from that we have then aged the rest of the surface of the moon. So it's all from the Apollo missions that we've aged the surface of the moon, and then used that to age Mars as well.
Yeah, and so how that impacts the Earth as well, I suppose, is that if you know how many impacts are or meteorites are bombarding the moon over time, you can learn what the sort of impact flux of meteorites must have been on Earth, and that has implications for how you deliver water to the Earth and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess in terms of on the subject of impacting, we found out that the moon is essentially made of the same material as the Earth.
Mm.
And
I mean, you can basically think of it, and we've said this before in other podcasts. I think it's just a big volcano in space.
Yeah.
And so the mechanisms in which the lunar crust was formed, in particular, predominantly on the far side, or the light grey areas that you see in the night sky. This is called a primary crust. So it's the first bits of land to effectively have formed on the moon. And the mechanism in which that formed is how we think the Earth acquired its first crust, and how most of the inner solar system planets acquired its first crust. Yeah. That splice is starting to ramp up now.
Yes. Yeah.
That's how
we're
the
trying
Earth
to
and
keep
the
it
moon
together.
fell. Yeah, but so it's a good proxy for what an early Earth might have looked like.
Exactly. Because if you think the moon is, most of the rocks on the moon are somewhere between 4 and 3 billion years old. Because of plate tectonics and all that kind of stuff on Earth and on Mars to a lesser extent. Well, there's no tectonics on Mars.
No, but there has been
it's a young surface,
Yeah.
And so there's nothing really of that age on this planet or on Mars. And what there is very rare. I mean, if you think about how old, for instance, the oceanic crust is, it's only tens of millions of years, really. Continents are a bit older than that, but still, the moon is a fantastically preserved geological record of what we think the early Earth must have been like.
Yeah.
So it's why it's a really important body to understand, and why it's important for putting the Earth into context.
Next question.
You're right there, Ricky.
So the next source is Mahi Green Savina Habanero.
And our next question comes from Mary. There's a lot of research going into lunar resources. Are there plans to do the same with material from Mars or anywhere else?
Great question.
It is a good question.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it.
And hope we can answer afterwards.
It's nice to get away from some of the... It's nice to get away from some of the tomato-based ones.
Oh, it's fine. Yeah, no, it's a great question. I mean, resource utilization in the solar system is a goal for planetary science, sort of generally. And the moon at the moment is basically the test case for that. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I suppose, though, we're thinking about extracting resources from the moon, though, as a vehicle to allow human habitation on the moon.
Or further space travel.
Or further space travel, yeah. It's not really for making profit out of flogging minerals.
So yes, a good point John raises there is that when there is no plans to take material and bring it back to Earth. That's not a plan we have.
Yeah.
So I guess another thing we could talk about is the idea of mining ore from asteroids. It's economically infeasible to actually fly to an asteroid, mine the ore, and then fly it back to Earth.
I mean, the thing is that there are private companies out there that have set up some sort of company with the view to doing this, but I don't think they really appreciate how difficult it is to go to an asteroid. So, because interestingly, asteroids, in particular the metal ones, should have quite a lot of things like platinum and iridium and rhodium.
Elements which are rare or increasingly rare on Earth, and they're often used in like technology and
are they what you would describe as rare earth metals?
No, so they're actually the PGEs or the platinum group elements.
So are they as rare as rare earth?
They're even rarer.
Oh,
so typically in the Earth's crust, the sort of average Earth's crust value for these kind of things are in the parts per billion level.
Wow.
But they do concentrate in mines all over the place where they're extracted and used, but they're in different kind of minerals, sulfur-based minerals called sulfides predominantly, or chromides. and not out of metal, because it's really hard to actually extract these other elements out of iron metal. And so there are occurrences on Earth where you do get massive bodies of native iron that do contain technically economic deposits of some of these platinum group elements, but no one mines them. And that's because it's really hard. And so we can't do it on Earth. Why would it be economic to do it in space? It makes no sense. So to be very critical, I don't think these companies have really thought it through, really.
But to answer Mary's question in terms of Mars, as John said, for the moon, it'd be a similar situation. It's more trying to use the material that's there to allow us to inhabit the place, or to allow us to create a base that we could then fly to other places.
And it's all about sort of decreasing the amount of stuff that we have to take there.
Yeah, exactly.
The more that we can generate once we're there that's useful.
So it's things like water and oxygen and stuff.
Construction material, theoretically.
Exactly,
yeah.
But it raises an interesting question, though, because, I mean, Mars, it's had some pretty complex volcanism. So, maybe in theory there are economic deposits of valuable metals on Mars and stuff that, I don't know, it seems fun to speculate, I suppose, about these sort of things.
On to the next question.
Right, so our next hot sauce is a habanero-based sauce, salsa picante chili habanero.
This is a Texan one.
Is it a Texan one, is it? Well, that's exciting. 4 fluid ounces, and
Well, good luck to us. And the next question is from William, and he asks, is there any evidence that terraforming is a possibility on other planetary bodies? So I guess this leads up well on from Mary's question.
Absolutely.
So let's try and survive this next one.
Yeah. Is this spicy then, is this? Is this a home favourite?
I think it might be, yeah.
Okay, very good. That's also really nice.
Yep, okay. I can feel that.
Yep.
Not too bad, still surviving, but...
Would you say you were thriving?
No.
I've officially stopped
I
thriving.
stopped thriving a while.
Yeah.
Okay, so... in terms of evidence that terraforming is a possibility...
Yeah. Whew. I mean, terraforming. I mean, people have thought about terraforming Mars in a serious fashion before. I think if you
Where
Google...
did that tissue come from?
Terraforming is quite a popular sci-fi idea, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is that you could go to a planet and through some quick mechanism, is generally how it's shown, transform the atmosphere and the environment to be suitable for human life, basically.
So I guess it depends what degree of terraforming you're talking about. If you're talking about long-term thinking, or are you talking about short-term thinking?
Whole-scale colonization or small little research base.
Exactly.
Antarctic-style missions.
Yes, that's a very good comparison. Yeah, Antarctic-style missions. Yeah.
Because, I mean, so if we think about what the challenges are for terraforming somewhere like Mars, for instance, one of the big problems is a thin atmosphere and the fact there's no protection against radiation. Now, against a thin atmosphere, you could easily have ways of thickening that up by just pumping loads of greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide. So you could just dump a load of fridges there and that might be all right.
Cows,
fridges don't really have CFCs anymore, do they?
No.
It's a joke from the 90s then, I guess. If you like. And then how would you shield against radiation? I don't know.
So I guess that's the main issue, is shielding against radiation. So in short-term thinking, what we could just do is send some robots to a planet like we've already done before. We've got 2 functioning robots one functioning robot now on Mars. And what they could do is, if we make them so that they can build tunnels underneath the surface, or caves that would protect you from the radiation.
Yeah.
We could do that. It's a short-term solution to an issue.
Yeah, I mean, you could, in theory, house quite a few people in tunnels and caves.
Yeah.
I mean, people say the same thing for the moon as well, is that you could go and live in a lava tube.
Yeah.
But, what's the point? I mean, why do we want to have big cities?
And I mean,
Mars?
that doesn't sort of really fall under the umbrella of that terraforming process, which is actually making the environment change.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's sort of more finding a way to live with the environment as it is.
Yeah.
Whereas long-term terraforming is not really a plausible thing at the moment.
No, but I think the easiest place that we would probably start with would be Mars.
Yes.
I don't see it as being doable easily on the moon.
Or necessarily on a human kind of time scale. Like
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
processes, you may be able to manipulate them over thousands of years, but
Yeah.
what good is that to a 10-year research
Yeah.
program? For
That
I
was
mean, we
instance?
were saying off camera, you were saying it's like emulating the great oxidization event of Earth.
There, exactly.
So this is a period, because the Earth started off very early on. I can't remember exactly when that was, billions of years ago. There was carbon dioxide based atmosphere. There was very little oxygen.
Yep.
And as the proliferation of green-based plants
Yeah.
that started photosynthesizing,
So absorbing all that carbon dioxide.
exactly, and then
releasing
pumping
it.
out oxygen
Yeah.
as a result. It was slow. There was a slow shift from a
Yes.
carbon-based atmosphere to an oxygen-based atmosphere.
So,
you
couldn't
could
someone just say,
theoretically-
why don't we just take loads of plants
Yeah.
to Mars then?
But people have speculated that. People have suggested certain strains of algae that might do well in Martian conditions.
The
but
issue is,
it
though, we
would
talk
take a long
about Mars
time.
having a predominantly CO2 rich atmosphere, but it's still
Very
okay.
thin.
Most of it's CO2, but there's very little of it.
Yeah. But it's
Yeah.
just a very thin
Yeah,
atmosphere.
it's a very, very thin
Yeah.
So,
atmosphere.
and the interesting thing as well, I guess, is that once you've actually thickened up the atmosphere,
Yeah.
then all of a sudden water's stable on the surface. And
Yeah,
you'll
yeah.
get all of a sudden water returning back to the surface. You will start to get seas and,
Yeah.
it's river systems and all the kind of stuff that really gets you going there, Ricky.
Exactly. Yeah, what I
And,
studied.
and then all of a sudden it's a runaway effect, maybe.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I wish some milk would terraform my mouth right now.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, we can make that happen.
Next question.
Right, so we're question number
6.
6. Next we have a boot geologia. No idea what it is. Should be quite good though. 4 chili stars.
Oh God.
Next question comes from Matthew. And it's, to what degree are meteorite samples altered or modified by the heat and kind of other terrestrial processes associated with landing on Earth?
Okay. Yeah. And let's give this a little. Let's let this a go.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
4 chili stars, whatever that is. It's a good hotel to stay at. Let's give it a go.
Brilliant.
That's okay. Not too unpleasant.
Yeah, I don't like that one so much.
No,
It's just a bit sour.
it's not great.
Not in terms of heat, just in terms of taste.
Mm.
You just give it a second.
So I'm sorry to all the boot geologia fans that are in the audience. Hasn't scored well on this panel.
But to talk about the question,
So obviously, as a meteorite comes through the Earth's atmosphere,
It gets hot.
it gets very hot, and
Very,
that's what
very
you,
hot.
you see that fireball effect as it
Yeah.
falls through. So I guess what Matthew's asking is, does that really affect the meteorite in a substantial way, so that when we analyze it, is it a problem for us?
Yeah.
Well, the short answer is no.
yeah.
Yeah. Rocks are very bad at transferring heat through them. So what that means is, as it's flowing through the atmosphere, although it's getting burned up on the outside,
Yeah, that process is very kind of spatially constrained
Yes.
to within, I think, a couple millimeters of
Yeah.
the
If
surface.
that, even microns
But
in some
basically,
cases.
the surface of the sample is ablated, meaning that it just is wicked away as plasma, I think, from the surface, and that's what creates that kind of sometimes glassy, dark kind of shell crust on the outside. But yeah, so that process is only very kind of narrow, and the center of the meteorite is usually
quite fresh, yeah.
Yeah.
So if you want to worry about particularly volatile elements being changed or modified as a result of being on Earth or being in the Earth's atmosphere, it's really what happens on the ground in terms of when it's in a desert and it gets really cold and condensation starts to wick away at it. That's when you can really start to see more effects in terms of chemistry. If anything, actually, the fusion crust, this very thin melted layer, is actually a really good way to get a bulk chemistry reading off a particular meteorite, because it's obviously when you would take a bulk chemical reading of a terrestrial rock, you'd maybe grind up, maybe a pot of 10 grams or whatever to get an average measurement or whatever. You can't really do that with the meteorites. You can't destroy the whole thing to get a measurement.
yeah.
You're right there, Tom.
I'm warm.
Yeah, I'm warm. My lips are very warm.
Yeah, the roof of my mouth is just starting to sting a bit. But please, sorry, carry on.
Yeah. So anyway, as a result of ablating material, as a result of doing this little bit of melting on the top, you're actually getting a fairly good average composition of the meteorite. So it's actually really useful to have in terms of saying that's the average composition of this stone.
So that heat itself, because obviously, as the regular listeners know, I don't actually study meteorites at all. So that heat itself, will that not cause any metamorphism, anything like that, any igneous activity?
No, I mean, not that we've observed.
Yeah.
Yeah, most of the things are quite fresh in the interior of meteorites.
No,
Yeah.
so sorry, on the exterior.
Oh,
of
the
meteorite.
exterior. Well, yeah, I mean, yeah. What's quite on the surface, I don't think anyone really analyses.
Yeah,
anyway.
fair enough. Yeah. It'd be interesting to know what temperatures they actually get to.
Well, quite hot. I mean, to melt to melt a basaltic rock, for instance, you need to be up to at least 1100, 1200 degrees Celsius.
So I think if you put a rock in my mouth right now,
Yeah, would that be
it would
not
melt
as hot as some of these hot spices?
Yeah.
To be honest, actually, this has been fine.
So far. We've got a fair ways to go though, so let's move on. Next one.
Next one. So we're on to the spicy stuff now. We have some ABC extra pedis. No idea what that means, but I understand it's quite spicy.
Nice, that's what we like.
We had a little dab of this earlier, didn't we?
Yes,
Yeah.
it was pretty spicy.
So the next question comes from Mike. It's, why is there a concentration of thorium on the near side of the moon?
Good question.
So let's
let's do this and then see if we can answer the question.
Chin chin.
Mm-hmm.
That's not so bad.
Quite sweet. Definitely spice. Definitely taste that extra pedis in there.
That's fine. We could have done more there, I think.
So talking about extra pedis, so you're probably the best one to answer the question, John,
Yeah.
as a lunar.
Yeah. So I guess for context, the moon on the near side, in all the dark patches that you see in the night sky, where all the Maria are, is associated with really high thorium relative to the rest of it. When we say high thorium, though, we're only talking a few parts per million. But when you consider the rest of the moon and what sort of average terrestrial concentrations are, you're right there. Work through that. It's considered high.
Yeah.
And it's where all the Apollo missions sampled as well. So we've got this extra thing that what Apollo sampled was a chemically anomalous part of the moon. So that doesn't help. But why is it there? Good question. So
when the Apollo samples did it, though, did they just... Because
we didn't know.
we kind of have a habit in science of going, this is what we think one area is like, and therefore, well, let's extrapolate to everywhere else. Obviously, if you took a sample of Manchester and compared that to the Amazon rainforest, it'd be a completely different thing, you know.
Although perhaps precipitation might be similar.
Well, not today though.
Generic northern rain joke, yeah.
So when the Apollo samples missions did it, though, did they go, oh, so the moon is high in thorium?
No, well, they didn't know.
Okay.
So they selected those areas just because it was the easiest to land in.
Yeah.
And as the missions progressed, they picked more and more challenging terrains that may yield more scientifically interesting missions. But Apollo 11 was where's easiest to land.
Well, and that's a big part of the mission planning, isn't it? It's probably an under... I mean, I did never realise the amount of work that goes into site selection beyond just where can we land.
Yeah, huge studies. But anyway, we digress to the question, I guess.
Yeah.
As to, there is this thorium anomaly, but why is it there? And this comes down to how the moon has crystallised. And I think we've touched upon this on some previous podcasts where the moon started off as a ball of magma, and as it slowly crystallises, slowly concentrates various spicy hiccups, slowly concentrates elements that don't want to go into your main rock-forming minerals. And so you have a concentration of elements like thorium, like potassium, like some of your rare earth elements, so lanthanum, samarium, neodymium, etc., etc. And so we're not quite sure if this concentration effect is just pooled on the near side, or whether it's also present globally all around the moon, and we just don't see it on the far side because the crust is much thicker. So it's somewhat of an open question as to why this concentration is on the near side.
Because we see a large patch of satellite images of the moon. We can take elemental maps, and we found that there is this large area of the near side of the moon that has that thorium concentration. So it's interesting that it's just there. And I guess it could...
But is it there, or is it just because the crust is quite thin relative to other parts of the moon? So we're just seeing it because it's basaltic lava, because it's thin, or is it in fact...
It's that thing of that there are more of these Maria patches on the near side, than
exactly.
there are on the far side, Yeah, it's very
because there are actually patches of slightly elevated thorium on the far side near the South Pole, Not as much as the big mare areas, but there is slight enrichments there. And so is that because that's where there's a very deep impact basin that some people have speculated has actually gone right the way through the crust, and you're seeing the mantle. Yeah.
Good.
I hope that makes sense.
Yeah.
Very good question. Next question.
Okay, so our next source is a mahi scorpion pepper and passion. That's got all of the chilies in the world on it.
Looking forward to this one, actually.
Yeah.
And then to go along with that, we have a question by Mary. Are all the planets equally as likely to get hit by meteorites?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Oh God. Okay, it's been nice knowing you guys.
Yeah.
Sweet. That's really nice. That's spicy.
Oh, yeah. It's got me.
That's a slow burner.
Good question, Barry.
That's nice. I like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So,
Okay.
meteorites, impacts. Short
Yeah.
answer, yes. Moving on. No. So,
It depends where you are in the solar system, because you're more likely to be somewhere like if you know the asteroid belt, like Mars is. You're more likely to get hit by asteroids because you're closer to somewhere where there are asteroids.
This one really kind of...
but any sort of given planetary body, so all parts of the Earth are expected to get an equal number of meteorites.
Roughly.
Roughly.
The equator gets a little bit more because gravity and stuff. Jupiter, because it's the largest body in the solar system,
It will suck, gravity will suck things up.
Yeah.
more things in. Yeah, so it's what we call a meteorite sink? Is that what we call it? Asteroid sink? Something like that.
Yeah. It's what protects us from large impacts, in fact.
Yeah, thank you, Jupiter, for that. Oh, God. Oh, gosh. Oh, golly.
Got through about 5 mugs of water so far.
Yeah, so basically, the larger your surface area, larger your gravity.
The more likely you are to get hit by a given meteorite.
Yeah.
But I suppose per size, then that's kind of
In our solar
evened
system,
out.
something like Mars or Jupiter are definitely more likely to get hit because of where they are in proximity to the asteroid belt.
Yeah, so it depends on the composition of the solar system.
Yeah.
Big planets suck up meteorites,
Very good question.
and flux has changed over time. Moving on. Okay.
Oh.
So we're moving on now to question number...
Hang on a minute.
Yeah, you're...
Okay. Question number 9, I believe we're at.
Yeah.
So this
Hang
is
on a
where
minute.
our hot spices get very serious.
Very serious
Yeah.
indeed.
So this one we're looking at is a West Indian extra hot pepper sauce. And in fact, this says extra hot on it
Yeah.
in 2 separate locations, which leads me to really believe it.
Yeah. And what I would say, it's a brand that I enjoy. Their sort of normal hot version I would normally have with rice, maybe with a bit of chicken or a bit of salmon or something.
You have a really small amount of it.
Yeah.
I know, but Mum quite enjoys this one as well.
There's probably a point where we should say, do not try this at home. Just
Don't
do it.
No, I've been in training for this. So the past 2 weeks I've had sriracha with pretty much every meal.
Including your tea.
Including my tea, yeah, exactly. Let me tell you, that's challenging.
Next question.
Next question is from Carl. And Carl
I hate you,
asks...
Carl. Carl never asks any questions. I hate you, Carl.
No, do ask. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe as well. So why does the moon always show the same side?
Okay,
How does it know?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Chin chin, boys.
Chin chin.
Ooh. That doesn't even taste of anything other than spice.
No, it's got a sweetness.
Just like John, it's got a sweetness.
But incredibly
But otherwise, it's just...
pure spice.
Okay. That's
Okay. Wow.
Oh, yeah. Okay, come on, let's go.
So,
Oh,
what
God.
was the question again? Oh, yeah. So, moon.
Why does it always show the same face?
So, the moon always shows the
same
same
face.
because it rotates at the same speed it goes around the Earth
As the Earth revolves.
as the Earth
Yep.
revolves.
Yeah.
Is that purely coincidental that it does that?
Well, right now it is, yeah, but it's been changing over geological time.
It's been. I think it's spun a lot faster when the dinosaurs were around, right?
Yeah.
So it's to do with the distance.
slowing down, yeah.
the distance that the moon is away from the Earth, right?
Yeah.
So
So it's something called it's tidally locked, and
Yeah.
so the idea is that when the moon's been slowly receding, it's going away from us. It was spinning much faster, and when it was much closer to us, gravity would have had a huge impact that would have locked in that rotational speed, such that one side's always pointing at the Earth.
Yeah.
Bloody hell.
But, so there's a common misconception that the moon has
A dark
a
side.
dark side, and
Yeah.
it's not a
Yeah.
dark side.
it does have a dark
When,
side.
when the moon is dark to us, the other side of the moon is light. So
Don't
it
trust it.
is the far side of the moon,
Yeah.
Don't trust the moon.
but it's not the dark side,
Yeah.
because that side always faces us,
Yeah.
and it's because it rotates at the same speed
Yeah.
as the Earth revolves. So let's
No,
let's
it's all lies. Don't trust the moon. It's got a dark side. It's evil. Oh my god, I'm
just
dying.
like that sauce. Wow.
Oh gosh.
Right. So, final question.
We got the milk ready for this. Our final sauce is if you'd
Yes.
show it off, it's
Carolina Reaper chili.
so this was the hottest thing we could find in any of the shops that we
Yeah.
went into. So hopefully it's going to be
Yeah.
sufficiently painful.
I went into a dark alley and I found a guy on the dark web. And he said this is the most dangerous thing you could find. And he sold weapons to Russia. So
Now, is the tradition in his house also do a fine little dab?
okay.
Yeah, all right.
I reckon probably so.
So for those of you who don't know, we stole this idea from a YouTube channel called Hot Ones.
Not
And
sponsored.
in tradition, they put a little bit on the last week.
A little bit extra on the last week.
Gosh, as you can see, we got milk ready for after this. So I'm just gonna put just a little. I'm not crazy. Just put a little dollop. Just a little dollop on
Nice
there.
little... I mean, I've already kind of...
Oh god.
Apprehensive.
So this is how Uncle Ben died in Spider-Man, by the way.
I don't get that reference. Okay, there we go.
So, fortunately, our final question is a straightforward one. Comes from Emily, and the question is, if you could name a crater, what would it be called?
Great question.
So let's
Chin chin.
cheers to that.
Oh my
Cheers and
Yep.
yeah, all right.
Okay.
Smoky.
Well, what I find is, as soon as I start eating, I feel more relaxed.
Yeah.
I feel it's washed away the pain. So look, now I can talk normally.
Oh,
I
Okay.
call a crater Carolina Reaper chili sauce.
that's imaginative. Where'd you come
Yeah.
up with that?
Well, typically craters are named after explorers. There is on Pluto. I don't know if it's actually named after him or not. There's a Pluto on crater called Picard, but I don't know if that's named after Jean-Luc or not.
Yeah, I don't know. I reckon there's probably enough craters named after famous people, so maybe I'll just go for something similar. You know, simple, like, you know, my friend Adam or something. Yeah, just yeah.
So
I think I
Oh,
call it
that is-
lava.
so I name a
Oh,
crater
fire.
AJ Cable.
Lava, fire, hell. 1,000 degrees. Goodbye, cruel world. One of those ones.
Just the whole thing.
One of
You
those.
know
That
what?
whole thing. It'll fit on a globe.
That wasn't that bad. I think actually this one was worse.
Yeah. I think I agree.
But my mouth's on fire.
Yeah, my mouth's on fire.
Thanks for watching this episode.
We hope you
Yeah.
enjoyed it.
And we'll catch you next season.
Next season.
Next season.
Late September, early October. We'll have a few videos out on the channel too in the meantime to tide you over.
My
But
teeth hurt.
thank you for all your questions. Thank you to
Yeah.
our guests in particular. We're really thankful for everyone's given their time to come and join us on this podcast.
Yeah.
And thanks
It's
for
a lot of fun.
listening.
Thanks for
I
listening.
think next season we should do this with every guest, but they have to do it. We just
Yeah, all right.
Yeah. But,
Cool.
Of course, as always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. We'll see you in a few months.
Hope you guys are.